The EPA will rescind the 2009 finding that greenhouse gas emissions endanger public health and welfare. This was announced yesterday by EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin. That finding is the basis for much of the federal government's efforts to combat climate change. What exactly is the EPA revoking and why? How much greenhouse gas emissions does the US produce? And what comes next for climate protection efforts? ASP explains. In 2007's Massachusetts v. EPA, the Supreme Court ruled that greenhouse gas emissions are a form of air pollution under the Clean Air Act. The court tasked the EPA with determining if the gases threaten public health, and 2 years later, in 2009, the EPA published its endangerment finding. Overwhelming scientific evidence found that human carbon emissions do fuel climate change. It also found that greenhouse gas pollution endangers public health and welfare. The agency cited increased heat, extreme weather events, and other environmental consequences. The proposed rule by the Trump administration argues the EPA overstepped its legal authority when it issued that 2009 endangerment finding. The proposal also argues that regulating climate change is too expensive. It leads to higher prices and gives car buyers fewer choices. Globally, carbon emissions hit an all-time high last year, reaching 40.8 billion metric tons, according to the Statistical Review of World Energy. China, the US, and India, respectively, were the top three carbon-emitting countries last year. Data from the EPA and European Commission found that if the US transportation industry were its own country, they would be the fourth largest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions in the world. However, US carbon emissions were lower in 2024 than they were in 1990. The proposed rule is up for public comment, and it'll likely be challenged in court by state and environmental groups. If the rule goes into effect, it'll allow the Trump administration to remove greenhouse gas emissions limits on cars, factories, and power plants. It could also prevent future administrations from proposing their own rules to fight climate change.